Well, good morning. Welcome to Thought for the Day. We've become very good in our society about avoiding things that are bad for us, haven't we? Our supermarkets have great sections which are free from one thing or another. I suppose Lent is the original free from 7 weeks, 40 days free from fat and eggs. But it's not just foods. The whole safeguarding agenda. There are lots of checks and balances to make sure that bad things don't happen. That people need to be checked out before they work with children, before they work with vulnerable adults. Illnesses too. If we get an illness, we expect there to be a cure. We go to the doctor and say, how can you sort this out? And modern medicine has come up with innumerable amazing cures for things that we thought could never be cured. The last year, the scientists around the world have been racing to produce now dozens of different vaccines that can prevent or help prevent COVID. And it's great. It's wonderful. I mean, the whole thing about recognising dangers in food and free from in food, it's a really great recognition that not all the things we like are necessarily good for us. And also recognition that we're not all the same, that what's good for one person may not be good for another. I find it a bit frustrating that it's harder now to find things that we can meals that we can share, but actually to expect someone to eat something that's going to cause a bad reaction, that's a terrible thing. And it's wonderful now that we understand that and we respect that difference between us. And we go to lengths to make sure that people don't eat the things that are bad for them. It's wonderful that we've finally faced up to the fact that there was terrible, evil behaviour, evil acts were taking place. Were being tolerated, blind eyes were being turned to, particularly with children, but also with vulnerable adults. It's so good that is now largely out in the open, and it's not entirely solved. But the mindset is this shouldn't be tolerated. And Jesus too came in a sense to drive out bad things. His best friend John wrote that the reason he appeared was to destroy the works of the evil one. John says that's why Jesus came, to destroy those evil works. A remarkable amount of Jesus' ministry was involved in driving out demons. Exactly what we understand by that. I'm not quite sure what it was that they saw as demons being driven out. Was that some forms of what we call mental illness, or were they really spiritual issues? I'm not sure, but Jesus was doing it. People were set free. People who were totally under the power of evil, unable to live any sort of normal life, were set free instantly. Calm, able to return to society, able to function again. He came to destroy the works of the evil one. But I think there's a slight concern here that we drive all these things out, but what do we put in their place? And Jesus gave a warning once. He told the story of a person from whom the demons were driven out, but they didn't put anything in the place where the demons had been. What he says, and again he's talking maybe figurative language, and I don't think this is a story of an actual person, it's more a story to make a point. He said that the demons who'd been driven out wandered around and they found her heart all swept clean. And they said, great, and brought 7 of their friends with them. So, and it raises the question, we drive all these things out, we avoid these things, but what do we put in their place? What foods are we going to eat? This one may be bad for us, but what are we going to nourish our bodies with? I think if you avoided eating anything that's bad for anyone, you'd starve. and that wouldn't be good for you either. And what the particular diet or regime that works for one person isn't necessarily going to work for you. I feel that maybe a supermarket should have a full of area as well as a free from, full of goodness. And thinking about children, yes, that we need to be careful that to keep them safe. We need to be careful to make sure that the wrong people don't interact with them. We need to be careful in all those ways. But what are we going to do with and for the children in our families, in our lives, in our communities? How can we help them to have rewarding, worthwhile childhoods? And maybe at a deeper level, what are we going to do with the freedom and life we have from being saved from an illness? You've had the COVID jab maybe, or you're going to expect to have it in the next few months. Once you're free from COVID, what are you going to? What's that freedom for? Is it just to return to things as they were before, or is that freedom there for a purpose? Maybe you've been saved from a life-threatening disease. You've been given an extra few years. What are those few years for? I just encourage us not just to be people who are free from, but people who are full of goodness and purpose and life. Jesus came, he said that people might have life and have it to the full. He came to a religious system that said you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that, you mustn't do the other. He said you're just cleaning the outside. You keep all these rules, and yet you don't really deal with the inner issues. He said, I've come to give you have life. Maybe hard to find the food that's acceptable to everyone. But in the spiritual realm, there is a spiritual food which is good for all of us, and that's to know the Lord Jesus Christ, who loved us enough to come and die for us. May you fill every part of your life with him as you remove the things that are not so good. God bless you today.